Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, some good, some bad, some simply beyond this realm. The tales you are about to hear are the untold stories of those who entered the shadows, perhaps against their own will. These are the Terror Tapes. Terror Tapes, Episode 10, The Bugman. Chris's phone vibrated several times as he pulled up to the house. He checked it, and it read all the usual messages he was expecting. Please call me. I'm so sorry. It won't happen again, I promise. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. A typical begging cheater's claims. Chris put his phone away, ignored the messages, and hopped out of the work truck, walking towards the house. He knocked on the door and is met by a teary-eyed woman who directs him to the basement. As they navigate through the house, he sees the husband sitting in a chair with a nasty scowl. A little boy walks up next to the woman, hiding behind her leg. Is he gonna keep the Bugman away, Mom? He asked. I am the Bugman, buddy, Chris said endearingly, but the child outbursts into a horrible meltdown. The woman points to the basement while trying to calm the screaming child. Chris zipped down the stairs, unable to shake the look of pure terror in the child's eyes. He didn't know kids were capable of understanding such deep fear. Down in the basement, he finds a cluster of bugs, unusually crawling amongst each other. What was even more peculiar was that these bugs didn't seem to abide by the food chain, as predators and prey crawled over each other rapidly and without pattern. Spiders crawling over ants, crawling over roaches, yet none of them attacked each other. Chris could hear the boy still screaming above him, followed by the parents arguing. He's your child too. Maybe if you'd spend more time with him around here than with some whore, you'd know how to handle him better, the wife screamed. It was one time. Aren't you over that yet? The man barked back. Chris quickly treated the bugs, hoping it was enough, and zipped back up the stairs. They didn't notice he's about to leave until he speaks up. I'm done here. If the problem continues, just let us know, he yells at the arguing couple. The boy sees Chris and starts freaking out again, yelling, The Bugman! The Bugman! Get the hell out of here, the husband yells at Chris, who's already 1 foot out the door. Chris gets back in his work truck and dials up his boss. Hey, have you ever heard of some Bugman thing? Just had a kid lose his mind on me, Chris said. It's just some folktale they tell kids so they don't crush every bug they see like the maniac killers they are, his boss said, dismissing. Stop by my office on your way out, would you? As Chris is talking with his boss, he sees a man wearing a long trench coat and a wide-brimmed hat walk right in front of his work truck and then walk to the front of the house. Chris watches as the person presses his hand on the house, and then thousands of bugs release, smothering the house and then disappear. You gotta get help! We need help! Chris yells into the phone and then jumps out of the truck. Chris tries pulling on the front door of the home with all of his strength, but it's no use as the bugs swarm every inch of the house and start covering Chris. He's forced to retreat as the bugs build on him, barely able to make it to the sidewalk before collapsing, and then the bugs disperse off of him. The family's screaming falls silent, and all Chris hears is the sound of thousands of bugs crawling over each other as the house begins collapsing on itself. First responders arrive and start cornering off the house, and shortly, Chris's boss arrives and drags him back to his car. Get in, his boss demands. Where are we going? Chris yells back. Get in. His boss barks, stopping to stare him dead in the eyes. Chris gets in the truck. Chris's boss races through the streets. Chris is unsure where he's headed or what even just happened. Bill, what the fuck is... Look! Whatever you think you saw wasn't real. The house was destined to go under. They've had termites for ages, and there's always been problems in there. It's a miracle it took this long, Bill said, interrupting Chris. Whoa, I know I might be new to this pest control thing and all, but this is not just termites. That was an entire entomology book, Chris yelled back. Chris reached for a piece of paper sitting on the floor under his feet. I'm telling you, as your boss, that was just termites and maybe some German cockroaches. Maybe, Bill said, and then looked at Chris, who was holding a legal summons for the pest control business. And would you mind telling me, as my boss, why we're getting sued? Chris said, holding the paper. Bill looked forward for a moment, contemplating his next move. The Bugman is real, and he's back. It's a folktale, I didn't lie about that, but this one isn't make-believe. We've had cases like this happen a few times before you started, first sightings in decades. It takes place back when this town was barely a village. He was some angry old guy whose wife died and then fell into a deep depression and was mean to everyone. He never helped the village or anything. So one day, they chased him out of town and into a cursed forest where he fell into a hole and was consumed inside out by bugs. Legend goes, he only comes after people who betray others, and the lesson to the kids is to be nice, basically. Chris sat in silence, unsure what the hell to even think. As your boss, yes, we're being sued, but it's nonsense, I promise. Just some people trying to make money from the business, claiming our pesticides gave him a rash or something. It's nothing, Bill said, with a panicked stare. Suddenly, a cockroach crawled across the dash, followed by dozens more, and before they realized it, the entire car was filled to the brim with cockroaches. Bill swerved the moving car off the road, and they crashed into a tree after tumbling down a hill. Chris could feel himself being pulled out of the car by all of the cockroach bodies working in unison like a giant hand. He got dragged away, reaching for Bill, who lay dead against the steering wheel. Chris is dragged for what feels like hundreds of yards deep into the bowels of the forest until he's plopped into a dark hole in the ground. Holding his injuries, he looks around and sees the silhouette of a man standing in the corner. The same man who walked in front of his truck before. Wrong time, wrong place, huh, son? The raspy, pissed-off voice said. Chris was confused until the man walked into the moonlight, shining down on top of the hole, revealing a man's body, which was constantly crawling and squirming with bugs. It was the Bug Man himself. He walked towards Chris. Kill the man, whatever, but the wife and kid? They didn't do anything, Chris said over his pain. Your heart's too big. It's not about the man, the individual. Hell, it's not even about the wife or the kid. It's about cleansing the entire human DNA, the Bugman said. You want to play God because of your trust issues? Chris said. The Bugman whipped around and grabbed Chris by the throat, picking him off the ground single-handedly. I'm doing what God doesn't have the balls to do. It was a problem he let get out of control. If he cared, he'd stop me, right? The Bugman said. Chris could see his eyes were black pits of nothing, minus crawling bugs. Why don't we try something? Suddenly, Chris was smothered head to toe by a mass of bugs and felt his body being picked off the ground. Before his vision went black, he could see the Bugman smiling at him as his world closed off. Chris woke up in his bed, untouched, unharmed, not a bug in sight. He plopped his head back down relieved, not just before his heart nearly jumped out of his chest when he saw the body in his bed, until he realized it was his girlfriend. The hell are you doing here? He said, shaking her awake. What do you mean? You called me over here, you psycho, she said playfully before trying to roll back over. Chris jumped out of bed. You gotta get out of here. Now, he said as he opened the door. His girlfriend got out of the bed and walked over to him, gently pressing her hand on his face. I thought we moved past this, sweetheart. You said it was okay, she said before trying to hug him. He shoved her back. Okay? You fucking cheated on me. How is that okay? Get the hell out of here, Chris barked at her. She started laughing, turning from a silly giggle to a Joker's psycho laugh. His cock was bigger anyway. Got the job done, and let me tell you, it's been a while since that's happened, she said as she continued laughing. Chris couldn't help himself. A burning sensation overcame him as his body flushed anger from his head to his toes. He lunged after her, but not just before her body evaporated into a sea of dispersing bugs. Chris fell to the ground and snapped out of his illusion, finding himself back in the hole, back in reality. The Bugman faintly laughed at Chris, who was on the ground, confused at where the Bugman was, until he looked into the corner and saw it, his girlfriend's dead body.
Forgiving isn't so easy, is it?
The Bugman faint whisper echoed among the empty hull walls. Then he felt something inside his stomach crawl up into his esophagus and out of his mouth, followed by another. Then before he knew it, he had hundreds of bugs crawling under his skin, starting to chomp away at his insides. They tore through the skin, and in no time, as his original body was consumed, his new body was comprised of the same bugs that made up the Bugman. The Bugman's faint voice echoed in the distance before disappearing.
Your turn.
Chris let out a blood-curdling scream as his new reality set in. He was the Bugman. And that concludes another journey into the dark world of the Terror Tapes. If you enjoyed the terror, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join our growing legion of fear seekers, and together we'll explore the darkest corners of the unknown. Until next time, stay haunted.